Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's seminar on how food can impact your mood and immunity. Just before I get going, I'd just like to remind everyone to keep visiting the Laya Healthcare.ie, as we're going to be adding up more and more talks and seminars over the coming weeks. We're going to be focusing in on things like movement, nutrition, like we are here today, well-being, and so much more from a variety of different speakers and health and well-being experts too. So be sure to keep an eye out for all those, and hopefully you'll enjoy a lot of the content that's to come, because it's pretty great. So suppose we'll jump right in. So, now more than ever, with such a rapid change in our daily routines, lifestyles, and overall situations, it can be quite a difficult time for many when it comes to maintaining a healthy diet and lifestyle. So, although food is by no means the only factor when it comes to promoting a good mood, good energy, or maintaining a healthy immune system, it definitely does play an important role too. So today we're going to look at some of the practical ways in which you can support your mood and immune system during these challenging times. Just before I slide on to the next slide, we do have a Q&A today, which I will keep to the end of today's session. So if you have any questions on today's topic, or anything that comes up in today's slides, then be sure you can fill it out as we're going, but I will get to the questions at the end. So in case you think I'm just ignoring you or anything, I'm not. So I will get to as many as I can at the end. All right, let's go. So today we're going to touch on pretty much all of the above in a good bit of detail, and we're going to discuss the role played by each of these factors, and hopefully give some simple tips to make each one more manageable for you. Before we continue, though, I wish to highlight that each of you will be in a different situation, and so it is important that you don't try to change everything at once. You may find that there's one or two things here that are quite implementable for you, or strike with you quite a bit. But if there's a good bit more that pops up, then taking note of these things is a good idea. But you don't try to overhaul everything at once, and we'll touch on some of the issues around that later on as well. But at the end of today's seminar, I'm going to ask each one of you to focus on one actionable goal that you can take from what we go through today, and hopefully that I'll have explained it in a good enough and manageable enough detail for you to leave from today and easily implement something. So that's the main thing that I kind of want you thinking about as we go through the slides: is how does this strike with me? Is this something that I could easily implement into my current day-to-day, and how would I go about that? So before we start off, what I do hear quite a lot of the time from people is, I know what I should be doing. Now, I think we should all take a moment to recognize that there is a real difference between knowing what you should do and actually doing it. So there are many barriers that get in our way when it comes to making healthy choices, or lifestyle changes, or whatever it may be. And this can largely come down to habit. So when we do something repeatedly, our brain creates a neural pathway which helps to do this action almost automatically. So the first step to changing your habits is to identify your unhealthy habits. Some of these, now this is by no means an exhaustive list, and that's kind of going to be the tone for today. I'm just touching on some of the more common hurdles that people do face. But Some of the unhealthy habits that people do face include using food as a coping tool when you're stressed, maybe when you're bored, or if you're tired, or in any other way experiencing an emotional discomfort. This one is a huge source of stress for many people, especially at the moment, with some people still being forced to stay home. Our normal social outlets aren't what they used to be. We might not be comfortable getting out and about. This is one hurdle that, or one habit that is tending to crop up quite a bit. Lack of preparation. Then, when we're not used to preparing food in advance, or maybe doing a weekly shop, this can leave us with limited options as we remain, as I said, at home. Especially if you're used to relying on takeaways, restaurants, maybe fast food, which you now have a little bit more limited access to. It may be that you might not be confident in the kitchen, or you might just be unsure about what to eat. As you're out of routine, you might feel completely unmotivated to make healthy choices, as you might think it's pointless for some. Or you might simply just have, as I said, reduced access to your normal routine, your normal places of choice for food and that. So whatever it might be, identifying your main barrier and taking action to find a solution is really your first step to success. So hopefully we'll be able to come out of today with a few tips on how to do this. So it should almost go without saying, but the benefits of a good mood can't be undervalued. So while we are all striving to be happy and healthy, we know that a good mood makes living much more enjoyable. When we're in a good mood, we're more able to cope with stress, maintain a positive outlook on life. It's much easier to focus in on work and be more productive, and just all around feel much better. Now, when it comes to food, food will not solve all of your issues, but it is definitely one of the factors that you can focus on when it comes to boosting your mood. So there's plenty of, you can see here on screens, plenty of benefits to a good mood, but depending on food for that, while it can aid in energy in that, it's limited in that area as well. So over the next few slides, I'm going to touch on some ways that you can boost your mood. Not necessarily boost your immunity, but how you can support your immune system with food. So I suppose, unfortunately, as I said, when it does come to boosting your mood and energy, there is no one magic bullet. So balance really is the key, as no one food group can give your body all of the essential nutrients that it requires to function at its best. I suppose a great way to go about this, or a really easy way to achieve balance across your meals each day, would to, if you haven't heard of it, would be to focus in on the Eat Well plate guide. So what is this? This is where you aim to have a third to half of your plate or bowl made up of fruit or veg at each main meal. Then from I suppose a quarter to a third of your plate made up of either carbohydrate, and the other third to a quarter made up of protein. Obviously, those balances change depending on the individual, your exercise, your output, your size, all these things. But in general, that's kind of how the Eat Well plate guide looks, and that's easily accessible online too if you were looking to look into that a little bit more. I suppose examples of meals that might tick this box could be a salmon salad with some brown bread. You could have a stir-fry veg with some chicken and rice, or simple, my own breakfast today, banana bread with some Greek yogurt and berries. So it doesn't have to be a case where you fill out the plate to match exactly veg tucked over here and your carbohydrate over here. Just following that guide to include different things in those quantities is a great it is a great little guide there for helping with that. So when we combine food groups, we're more likely to give the body the essential nutrients that it needs to function well. So there's no preferred meal type as well, just to touch on that, or diet type. The best meal to eat is one that you enjoy first and foremost, and that leaves you feeling satisfied and full and energetic afterwards. So if you were to think of the meals that you had either today or yesterday, do these meals match up closely to that, or do you see some gaps in how your normal meal structure is that you could possibly look into to changing around? So that's something that is quite easy to analyze how your diet is, and if there's any easy changes you could look to make. So I'm going to touch on carbohydrates because it does seem to be an area that brings about quite a little bit of conversation and confusion, but and some of the benefits of it in our body. So carbohydrates are a key player when it comes to our mood and our energy. Carbohydrate intake is directly linked to the release of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter in our brain. Serotonin is an important chemical that helps to improve our mood and to regulate both our sleep and wake cycles, as well as our appetite. So having enough serotonin is important for preventing low mood or depression, and also helps you to sleep well and feel more alert when you are awake. So in addition, serotonin also helps to regulate our hunger and fullness signals, and allows people to experience that satisfied feeling following a meal, which helps to prevent overeating. Therefore, adequate carbohydrate intake is essential to allow us to feel good, sleep well, and receive accurate appetite signals from our bodies. When you eat carbohydrate, it's broken down into sugars and absorbed to give us energy. Some carbohydrates will go through this process quicker than others. So with that, the goal for a good mood and a good energy is to aim for your slow release carbohydrates. So, and keeping them regular in your diet. Things like oats or potatoes, your whole grain breads, rices, wraps, these type of things. This is what you're looking to keep in decent levels in your body regularly throughout your day. Conversely to that, then you should try to limit your your slow release carbohydrates are often referred to as your complex carbohydrates, and then in opposite to that you have your simple carbohydrates, and we do try to limit our simple sugars as they can spike our blood sugar levels, which initially can make us feel energetic, but when we crash, it can lead to feelings of fatigue, irritability. One that I hear a lot of is hangriness. And ultimately, they're not great for our mood or energy levels long term. So for this reason, it can be a good idea to limit the likes of jellies, chocolates, ice creams, your confectionery foods. Now that doesn't mean that you can't find a place for them. They certainly have a place, but just applying some control and limit around these is prudent and is a good idea. With carbohydrate, many people do fear them because they believe that they cause weight gain. Now, this is simply not true. Carbohydrates are an essential nutrient, meaning that we need them. We could go into a lot more detail on that, but we do need them as an energy source. So one important role of carbohydrate is opening a gateway in the brain for the amino acid tryptophan to enter and produce serotonin, which is our feel-good hormone, as I touched on there at the beginning of this slide. Also, when we deprive or when we avoid carbs, we deprive our brain of energy. Its main fuel source, which is glucose. So you may experience, like I said, fatigue, low mood, and irritability. Um, with that, the brain lacks an ability to store fuel, and hence it requires a continuous supply of glucose. It can consume up to 120 grams per day, which corresponds to an energy input needed of over 450 calories, possibly accounting for up to 60% of the utilization of glucose by the whole body when you are resting. So, in addition to that, we are less likely to crave our simple sugars when we provide our bodies with complex carbohydrates at each one of our main meals. And we'll touch on how energy can spike and dip in a small while, but that's just a little bit of a background on carbohydrate and the benefits of it. Adding more fruit and veg to your diet is one of the easiest ways to boost your mood and energy, as well as supporting a healthy immune system. So it's packed with micronutrients, water, fiber. They're literally just loaded up with benefits. Many people do try to search for the perfect fruit or veg to eat, but the key really is in eating all of the colors of the rainbow, as you will get an array of nutrients in that way. This actually, that little analogy of the rainbow has I found with parents in the past who struggled to get children to eat more fruit and veg, that playing around with food and presenting it in a manner, I suppose, that's a little bit more fun, like in a rainbow shape or in a rainbow color, can actually entice children to bring more fruit and veg into their diet a lot more than just putting it in front of them in a bowl and telling them to eat it. That's just a little side note on that, but just for any parents that are on today that who struggle with their children getting fruit and veg in, that playing around with food could be, or with fruit and veg could be a good option. I suppose in addition to that, then don't force yourself to eat a fruit or veg that you don't like. Find what you do like. There's a huge, massive array of options out there, but different ways to kind of almost sneak some veg or fruit into your diet could be through the likes of, as I said, stir fries. You could roast your root vegetables there. Honey roasted root vegetables is a personal favorite of mine. Obviously, enough a salad is a great way to load in on fruit and veg, but soups also contribute towards your veg intake. Smoothies are a great way to get both fruit and veg in as well. And as well as making sauces from different veg, they all count. So whatever way you can go about trying to get extra fruit or veg, fruit and or veg into your diet, there are plenty of options out there. You don't have to, necessarily. I know I mentioned a salad. I don't mean to demonize salads, but you don't have to sit down and force yourself to eat a salad if that's not how you'd like to eat your fruit or veg. In addition to this, it can take up to 10 tries of a new food to like it, or for your palate to adapt to the taste of that new food. So that's a research-driven finding. But so if you are looking to try something out, then give it a chance. Trying something once and saying no, especially if you know that it's going to provide you with some nutrients that you may otherwise lack from your diet, but give yourself a few goes across maybe a fortnight. Give yourself up to 10 tries of a food and see, does your palate adapt to that new food and to that new taste, or consistency of the food, just to see, does your palate actually adapt? And if not, then, as I said, don't worry about it. You can move on to other options, but do give foods a chance before you knock them. Especially if you're used to trying something once and then leaving it off. So, as I said, we touch on energy levels as a result of different carbohydrates, but it's important to note that you should aim to fuel your body regularly. That leaving long gaps between meals, while it's a common trend in people who are looking to possibly lose weight, or in people who have particularly busy work schedules, it may seem like a good approach to both to losing weight or managing weight. But long term, most people end up starving or being a lot more hungry at the end of their day, and as a result will consume much more in that end of day period than they would have if they were regularly fueled and filled throughout their day. So that's a huge thing to keep in mind. If weight loss is a goal of yours, then to keep that to ensure that you are regularly fueling yourself and not leaving big long gaps. From an energy perspective, when we leave long gaps between meals, your body will have digested and absorbed glucose needed for energy, and it might dip, leading to feelings of fatigue, low mood, the hangriness that I mentioned, irritability. We've all been there, and we can all recognize when we've been in those states. So you might find yourself in these situations reaching for a sugary treat to give yourself a quick pick-me-up. This often reminds me of the Snickers ad, "You're not yourself when you're hungry." Now, while I'm not recommending that you take away from today, every time I get hungry, I have to eat a Snickers bar. What it's telling us is that when we do leave long gaps go in in fueling ourselves, our energy does dip. And so you should be aiming to have regular meals with a regular meal pattern, with good quality, as I said, following that Eat Well Plate guide as much as you possibly can, to give yourself good quality energy and good quality fueling, as well as filling yourself. A good strategy would be to be prepared, use snacks wisely, and to really kind of track your day without necessarily, having a diary written out for food, or without having, to go using a fitness tracker or anything like that. Just take a look at your day, take a look at your normal work day or your lifestyle, and just see how regularly do I eat? Is it a little bit erratic? Is it all over the place? Could I put some structure on that? So fueling your body regularly, as you can see here on the diagram that we have, just like from fueling yourself with different sugars, and that the green line there is a balanced diet that includes for some complex carbohydrate. So your energy kind of gradually comes up and then gradually goes down. Whereas when you're going for the more high sugar diet, or like leaning on heavy snacks or that you can spike your energy much quicker, but what goes up quick will come down just as quickly as well. And then you're left having to refuel that again. And a lot of these foods are quite calorie dense, which can, make managing our weight a little bit more difficult. Now, water and hydration, another big area that tends to get overlooked in some people. But water is essential when it comes to boosting our mood and energy. Maybe some ways of going about monitoring your water intake would be to keep an eye on the color of your urine. Aim for a pale straw color from it. However, if you do take a multivitamin every morning, or a vitamin C tablet, one of those effervescent vitamin C tablets, then this can offset the color of your urine. So that might not be a great way to go about managing it. But I suppose some of the tips, even if I was to look at it here myself, I have a 1 liter bottle of water here with it has times written on it. You can pick these up in most shops. If you do find trying to stay on top of your water intake is a bit of an issue, and you're not actually sure how much you get in, then picking up a bottle like that could be quite handy, as you're able to see how much you drank by a certain time in the day, and you can give yourself a little bit of a gauge because of the timing on the bottle, to try and ensure you're getting in enough during the day, and like that results in me having at least 2 liters of water in my day, and I can add more into that if I'm training or anything different from a day to day. But it's that's a very handy way of keeping on top of it. So if you do struggle with keeping an eye on your water intake, then something like that could be quite beneficial. If water, the lack of taste, I suppose, in water is an issue for you, then you can add some chopped fruit, some mint leaves into your bottle. Lemon or lime could be added in as a squeezed in as well, or even the sugar-free dilutants as well can be a fantastic option to enhance the flavour so that you can enjoy it. However, soups and smoothies, they all count towards our overall daily intake of fluids too. So that's what we're trying to get in, is fluids. Tea and coffee do count, but it's important to try and limit these to 3 or 4 in the day. Otherwise, you could overdo your caffeine intake, and this can have a negative effect on your mood, energy, and your quality of sleep. Maybe not your ability to get to sleep. For some, it may be the case, but your quality of sleep will be offset. So this is why when you hear people speak about having coffee no later than 3:30 or 4 in the day, the reason for this is that the afterlife of caffeine in our system can be anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, depending on the person. So if you're looking to get to sleep and to wind down from 10:30 at night on, and to start winding down and getting ready for bed, well, then having caffeine later in the evening, while you may not feel it, it's still a stimulant that's active in your body. So this is going to prevent you from possibly getting to sleep, number one. Or if you do manage to sleep, like I often hear some people say, oh, I could have a cup of coffee and go to sleep. It does prevent you from getting into your deep REM sleep, where we do most of our recovery and preparation for the following day. So, and it can affect the quality of that. So it's important to keep that in mind, and to try and set a limit around caffeine intake, which is, I think, we're at roughly about 400 milligrams per day for an adult, and ideally, keeping that towards the earlier part of your day is a good idea. And that'll bring us straight into our sleep, night sleep. So when it comes to your health, sleep plays a very important role. While more sleep won't necessarily prevent you from getting sick, skimping on it could adversely affect your immune system, leaving you susceptible to picking up a bad cold or a case of the flu, things we're all very aware of, acutely aware of at the moment. So to keep yourself, sniffle-free in that, and to put your best foot forward in this line, I'll just run through some of the things that are worth noting in this area. So without sufficient sleep, your body makes fewer cytokines, which are a type of protein that target infection and inflammation, so effectively creating our immune response. So cytokines are both produced and released during sleep, causing a double whammy if you do happen to skimp on the amount of shut-eye that you get. So you probably know firsthand that sleep affects your mood. After a sleepless night, you may be a little bit more irritable, short-tempered, and vulnerable to stress. However, once you sleep well, your mood often does return to normal, at least for most of us anyway. There are studies which have shown us, there's a whole host of studies, and it's constantly being researched, but that have shown us that even partial sleep deprivation does have a significant effect on our mood. So researchers have found that the subjects who limited themselves to 4.5 hours of sleep a night for 1 week reported feeling much more stress, easier to anger, sad, as well as being mentally exhausted much easier and for longer periods throughout their week. However, when the subjects resumed a normal sleep pattern and normal sleep quality, they reported a dramatic improvement in their mood. So that's incredibly important to keep in mind, and it is an area that often does get overlooked. We find reasons to stay up at night, whether it's because we're watching movies, we're watching TV, we're on our phone, whatever we do, we find excuses to stay up late without thinking about it too much. So I would advise for people to take a look at the time that they are going to sleep. We all focus on what time we have to get up, but the time we go to sleep can often be a little bit forgotten. So keeping this in mind and ensuring that you're getting enough the right quantity of sleep as well as the quality of sleep, well, this can have a massive effect on your body's ability to produce an immune response. With that, not only does sleep affect our mood, but mood and mental states can also affect our sleep. So anxiety increases things like our agitation and arousal, which make it much harder to get to sleep. Stress also affects sleep by making the body, as I said, aroused, awake, and alert. So the exact opposite of what you're looking for. So people who are under constant stress or who have an abnormally exaggerated response to stress tend to have some sleep problems. Now, I'll touch on it in a few slides' time about some options around how to manage stress, or how to a non-exhaustive list as always. But one of the big things, as I said there, as I touched on, is our screen usage before bed. So it is advisable for that 30 to 60 minutes before bed to really start putting away our laptops, our phones, to get away from TV and allow our body to naturally wind down and switch down into sleep. Or into going to sleep. So that is something obviously enough that we're all very aware of. I know we're all staring at screens at the moment, and that, but just to keep in mind that is in your pre-bed routine. Try to limit your screen usage as much as possible, and to allow yourself to get into a better sleep routine ahead of going to bed. So movement for mood and energy, again, it's often something that you feel is so discussed or so spoken about that it's just common knowledge, but it doesn't tend to be the case. With a lot of people being quite confused around it, or maybe not sure how to go about improving their mood and energy through exercise. But some little stats, it's thought that 80% of people are sedentary, and that this is one of the leading causes of preventable diseases worldwide. Now, 80% is a very high number. However, what is classed as sedentary is pretty much sitting down all day. So there's a lot of us do exercise, or go to the gym, or go for a run, whatever it may be, partake in team sports, whatever it may be. However, we do this for a small period of our day, and then for a lot of us, the remainder of our day can be spent, as I am right here now, sitting at a desk, sitting in front of a laptop, and not having a whole pile of movement. So that's why that percentage is so high. Other reasons that I suppose to delve into a little bit more, like, why are we not active? Well, I suppose some of the reasons that, as we overdo it, so when we do decide to go exercising, we do exercise that we don't like, that we hate. We force ourselves into something that we're just not interested in. And I suppose as a result of the two of those, we can be inconsistent, or just inconsistency in general. It can lead to inactivity. So when I'm working with clients, I do ask them to stop thinking about exercise for weight loss. Otherwise, they can feel like it's pointless to exercise unless you're slogging for hours in the gym, or going out for really long, hard runs, or pushing yourself, with whatever exercise that you tend to go to. However, when you change your mood, when you change your reason for exercising to boosting your energy, reducing stress, you time, you're more likely to do it and to keep doing it long term, as this has a very positive, this small switch in your mind can have a very positive effect on the decisions you make around what exercise to do, and how you feel as a result of that exercise. So find something that you enjoy. There's so many options out there. If you don't like going to the gym, then forcing yourself to go to the gym possibly won't last too long, and it won't leave you feeling too great afterwards. So that's just one example, but there's so much there's so many options out there, that just trial things out, give things a go, and keep in mind what interests you. I suppose if I take myself, for example, I would take part in strenuous exercise. I play GAA, I play Gaelic football, I work in rugby. So a lot of my week would be spent pretty much go, go, go. But during the lockdown, when everything disappeared like that, I had to find some other way of doing things. And while we were quite limited with the distance and that we could do, I found that just simply going for a walk to a park just up the road from me was every bit as enjoyable. And it gave me a chance to break away from the confines of the house and to exercise without going too mad into it. And it's something that I've continued on since lockdown, that I may not have found or made time for in the past. Just something as simple as that. So finding what works for you and what you can enjoy, it's a constantly evolving thing. And but just pay attention to yourself is the main thing that I'm trying to get across there. Like if you're a night owl, for example, forcing yourself to get up an extra hour early in the morning to go train isn't necessarily going to last. It might not last a long time, but you could you also may not enjoy it. So paying attention to yourself a little bit. And for those who are looking to or exercising to lose weight, just on our last point here, you might be surprised to see that being more active in general, that this adds to our metabolism more than high intensity than a high intensity session once or twice a week. So like that, enjoy going for a walk. Take the stairs when the option is there. Avoid the escalator or the elevator. When you go shopping, there's no need to look for the parking space closest to the door. Just pick the first one that you see when you pull into the car park. Give yourself those extra few steps. Especially if you're doing a big shop, it might result in you carrying an extra few bags. So that's all very positive. But finding ways and points in your day where you can increase your overall movement is huge, and that can have as big, if not a bigger effect on our metabolism and our health and our mood as going to the gym once or twice a week. Now, with stress management, as I said earlier, this is by no means an exhaustive list, nowhere near it. But I'm just going to touch on just some, I suppose, strategies or common practices that might be worth looking into. So keep in mind that stress can negatively affect our mood and drain our energy levels. So when our stress hormones are flooding the body, we are more likely to crave high-fat, high-sugar foods, as they tend to distract us from our stress and they can turn off our stress response. So it can be helpful when coping with stress to find a healthy alternative to food. So things like maybe taking a break from work. Some people do like to try breathing exercises to help them to manage stress there and then in the moment. Journaling is another one that people do that enjoy doing and get a lot of I suppose emotional benefit from, just being able to write down your problems or write down your stresses or write down your thoughts and get them out in front of you where you can analyze them a bit better, and it helps to just get them out of the body too. Like myself, going for a walk I find to be incredibly beneficial. However, for some people, they might need a little bit more and they might go for a run or go to the gym, as I said. But it could be something as simple as talking to a loved one or a friend or colleague and discussing the stress that you're experiencing. And I suppose the big thing here is just not internalizing it and keeping it in, letting it build up where it can then have an effect and control effect over our decision making as much as possible. There are just some alternatives to food. However, if you can't break the habit of turning to food, then do try to make it healthier. And I suppose with this, it comes back to being prepared and having something there on hand, whether it's in the press or in the fridge, or if you're in the office, having something there at the desk with you. So it could be things like snacking on some fruit, chopped fruit, snacking on some raw veg. I know that carrots and hummus tend to be a big one for some people. Or even just something as simple as having some fruit and some Greek yogurt. It's a personal favorite of mine. So whatever option you go for, and it could be a multitude of different options, but just being a little bit prepared and think about it in advance, because you're not going to be able to analyze it and make the change when you are stressed. So having thought about in advance, like what do I do when I'm stressed and what would I like to do, and then having a plan in place in your head as to what you're going to do when stress does rise up a bit. So that's a big one. So just to give suppose a little bit of information on our immune system. It is a system. It's precisely that. So it's not a single entity. To function well, it requires balance and harmony. So there's still so much that researchers do not know about the intricacies and interconnectedness of the immune response. But some of the things that we do know are so like how the immune system works relatively. So the immune system, obviously enough, has a vital role. It protects your body from harmful substances, germs, cell changes that could make you ill. And it is made up of various organ cells and proteins. As long as your immune system is running smoothly, you don't notice that it's there, which is a big important point. But if it stops working properly, because it's weak or it can't fight particularly aggressive germs, we do get ill. Germs that your body has never encountered before are also likely to make you ill. And some germs will only make you ill for the first time you come into contact with them. So things like childhood illnesses like chickenpox that we tend to only get the once, and then our body builds up a memory of that and is able to resist that going forward. I suppose the tasks of our immune system. Without an immune system, we would have no way to fight these harmful things that enter our body from outside, or harmful changes that occur inside our body. But the main tasks of our immune system are to fight disease-causing pathogens like bacteria, viruses, parasites or fungi, and to remove them from the body, to recognize and neutralize harmful substances from our environment, and to fight disease-causing changes in our body, such as cancer cells and those. So there's a lot that it does do, but I suppose how is it activated is kind of the point of today's talk. So the immune system can be activated by a lot of different things that the body doesn't recognize as its own. So these are called antigens. So an example of an antigen, would be the proteins that would be on the surface of different bacteria or fungi or viruses. So when these antigens attach to special receptors in our immune cells, a whole series of processes are triggered in our body. And once the body has come into contact with a disease-causing germ for the first time, it usually stores the information about that germ, as I was saying, to fight it again in the future. Then if it comes into contact with that germ again, it recognizes the germ straight away and can start fighting much faster, much more efficiently. So the body's own cells have proteins on their surface too, but these proteins don't usually trigger the immune system to fight the cells. Sometimes the immune system mistakenly thinks the body's own cells are foreign cells, and it can attack those healthy, harmless cells in the body. This is known that would be known as an autoimmune response. But I suppose on that, just briefly, there we have two. I suppose we have both the innate and adaptive immune system. So the innate immune system provides a general defense against harmful germs and substances. So it would be often known as the non-specific immune system. It mostly fights using immune cells such as natural killer cells and phagocytes, which are kind of eating cells. The main job of the innate immune system is to fight harmful substances and germs that enter our body. for instance, through the skin or digestive system. The adaptive immune system then makes antibodies and uses them to specifically fight certain germs that the body has previously come into contact with. So this is known as our acquired or specific immune response. Because the adaptive immune system is constantly learning and adapting, then that allows the body then to fight bacteria or viruses that can change over time. But I suppose to kind of bring back to our food and our mood, our food and its impact on our immune system. For now, it's important to note that there's no scientifically proven direct links between our lifestyle and an enhanced immune function. That's the enhanced being the key word there. So before we decide or give a dive into any specific foods or supplements or anything like that, it's important to kind of think about that. That there is no real direct known link between our lifestyle and an enhancement of our immune function. With that as well, the term boost your immune system is unscientific, and it's most often used in clickbait headlines for marketing reasons, or just by people who don't necessarily know or understand what it is that they're talking about. So anywhere that you do come across, insert food or diet or diet type or supplement that will enhance or boost your immune system, then straight away I would be kind of saying to avoid that, as this is largely marketing, and it's as I said, there's no one there's no one food or specific dietary type of eating or supplement that's going to boost your or enhance your immune system. Dietary choices don't boost our immune system. Rather, what they do is they allow it to function at its best by ensuring that we have enough energy, have enough nutrients and vitamins present in the body to support overall function. The only way to actually to boost your immune system is through vaccination. This is and that's exactly what vaccines aim to do. So, from a food perspective, it's important to keep that in mind. Food and supplements that they can aid in the healthy function of our body. However, they don't boost or necessarily guide our responses or how our immune system responds. So how do you support a healthy immune system? So while there's quite a list there, again, it's a non-exhaustive list at all. But I suppose some of the ones I'm going to touch on here will be, and I know I touched on it over the last few slides, but it's worth mentioning again. So regular exercise is one of the pillars of healthy living and a healthy lifestyle. It improves our cardiovascular health, helps to lower our blood pressure, helps control body weight, and protects against a variety of different diseases. But again, does it boost our immune system? It doesn't. It helps to support the function of our immune system. So again, that's another area that tends to get a little bit of a look in from the word boost and immune system. But again, while it can support a healthy immune system, it doesn't boost it. Just like a healthy diet, exercise can contribute to generally good health and therefore to a healthy immune system as a result. It may contribute even more directly by promoting good circulation, which will allow cells and substances of our immune system to move through the body much more freely and to do their job a bit more efficiently. Other things then to keep in mind, would be like consuming a balanced and varied diet that we discussed at the outset, adequate sleep. So one thing I didn't mention there on the sleep side is that most adults do need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night. So try to really put some structure and thought into that. That would be huge. Staying physically active, as I said, obviously enough with the current within the current guidelines and all that. And then in addition to that, it would just be, I shouldn't pass on this slide without mentioning, regular thorough hand washing for at least 20 seconds in warm soapy water, just to keep that reminder going, and following this, any other specific advice from, the health authorities related to COVID, such as physical distancing and all that. Try to really minimize the, the risks associated with it. In addition to that, one other area that has been maybe popped up a little bit more for people during lockdown, and since this will be alcohol consumption, and this may not be. It may have changed for some people where they go out for a few drinks at the weekend, and possibly quite a lot of control over that. However, being locked inside and not getting out and about, and pubs not reopening and all this, that people are sitting down possibly to drink, to have a few alcoholic drinks each night, or every second night or something like that. It's just a good idea to take note of this, to take note of how much you are having, and to try and keep it in line with public health authority guidance on how many units of alcohol you should be having per week. So that's 11 units of alcohol for a woman, and 17 units of alcohol for a man, or less. Just that's something that has really pushed on a little bit over the past few months. So it's just not too big of a deal. Just something to take notice of if you find that you're sitting down to have a drink more during the week when you may not have otherwise, just to see how much you are having. So now is time to take action. There's no time like the present. And I suppose, if weight loss is your goal, you could be aiming for a gradual 1 to 2 pounds per week. That would be a nice steady rate to help offset the likes of the loss of muscle mass, along with a good quality diet. So that would mean like having adequate protein in your day, having sufficient level of calories to provide energy, along with whatever kind of exercise that you feel like or you're interested in doing. However, it is a good idea to make any decisions that you're going to make around your goal setting to keep them smart. Now, smart is has a meaning. So our S is to keep your goals specific. So if your goal is, I'm going to be healthier, well, what does that mean? Does that mean you're going to start exercising or to change the exercise you do? Does that mean you're going to get better quality sleep? Does that mean you're going to make some small changes to your diet or overhaul your diet? So it can be quite broad. So keep whatever goals you set very specific. So it could be something like, I'm going to eat 5 portions of fruit and veg per day. Or if you don't eat any, then it might be starting off with 1 portion and working up from that. Making whatever goals that you put together measurable. So like I said there, picking the 5 portions of fruit and veg per day, that's something you can measure out. Making it something that's achievable, setting yourself a goal or target that is kind of going to be a little bit unrealistic, is only going to make it much tougher in the long term to push yourself, or to kind of to really stay consistent with it. Having one of your goals or targets relevant, keeping it relevant to you, to your interests, to your passions, to the person that you are is huge, because this will make it much easier to stay in on track with long term. And time bound. So while you may set yourself up some small incremental steps along the way towards your goal, give yourself a good time frame to really bring about these to go after achieving these goals and targets. So if you have a specific goal that's not necessarily going to be very quick or easy to get to, then don't expect yourself to get there quick and easy. So don't go off training for 6 weeks to flog yourself to try and get yourself to some particular shape. Give yourself a year. Give yourself a couple of months, whatever it may be. Give yourself a long enough time frame that you can actually implement the changes you're looking to make, and and stay consistent with your decision. So what are you going to work on after today's seminar? After all, change only comes about with action. So what from today that we discussed of the big things that can have a real positive effect on your mood and as a result then support your immune system, what changes do you see in your day-to-day life that you could make, maybe right away from today? What small change could you make? Or what long-term goal do you think you could set in place from today that you could start to work towards? So now is a good time to kind of think about that and to maybe to start planning out for your long term and forward moving from here. Before we finish, I just want to touch a little bit, nice and quickly, on mindset. So we are still in a difficult and challenging time at the moment. 2020 has been an interesting year, but it is worth remembering this, that although food can help to I suppose to improve our energy, to possibly even boost our mood, and as a result then improve our health. It is ideal if it is not an added source of stress, as this can negatively impact our mood and energy levels also. So again, like on the last slide, you don't have to go about saying today, I'm going to overhaul everything. What changes can you make that aren't going to overly stress you, but that you can and that can be easily implemented into your current life, into your current structure, and that you can nicely chip away at over a long time. So that's something to keep in mind, that you don't need to be adding in stress, like going on a very restrictive diet or, a very restrictive meal plan or a tough training regimen or something. So it's important to kind of remember not to aim for perfection. With 7.8 billion people worldwide, it's impossible for us all to be eating the same thing. So try to relax, do your best, and focus on yourself and focus on your own individual goals and targets. It's important to try and ditch the all or nothing thinking. Just because you can't commit to 5 sessions a week in the gym doesn't mean you should give up entirely and do nothing at all. Don't eliminate treats. As I said earlier on, plan them in. Elimination can trigger cravings and desires for treats, and can result in us binging a lot more on them than we would if we kept them in small portions regularly in our diet. Making a plan. So this could be as vague as I'm going to eat 3 meals a day, 3 balanced meals a day, or it could be just a full week of meals planned in advance, whatever your preference. But try not to, add too much stress in there. So I would be leaning towards the former rather than the latter there with that. Preparation is key to helping out with long-term progress. So, getting used to the kitchen, getting comfortable in the kitchen, trying out new meals, maybe cooking in bulk might be something you like, shopping online. Making a shopping list is one that does get overlooked quite a lot. So when we go shopping, this is when we're most likely to pick up stuff that we don't necessarily need. So shopping with a shopping list is a very good option, or a very good idea, to go in prepared with what you need, knowing what you need, knowing what you're there for. So you're less likely to be sold by the cool marketing or whatever's on sale at the time. Also, in addition to that, maybe shopping, doing a weekly shop or every few days going for a shop on a full stomach can be something that can be quite positive too, as when we shop while hungry, we're more likely to pick up things that we may not have otherwise. So that's another little thing. And just keeping things simple. So now is not the time to overcomplicate things. We've enough to be stressed about as it is. So as I said, making small changes as you go is big. Choose food that you enjoy. Please try to keep this in mind. Enjoy your diet. Enjoy the food that you're eating. You don't need to feel like you're eating sawdust or cardboard or foods that you just genuinely don't like the taste of. You can build a perfectly healthy, nutritious diet around foods that you enjoy. So if it is something that you struggle with, then obviously enough, I would recommend that you reach out to a dietitian or a nutritionist for help with this. There's plenty of people out there. There's loads of online resources. But do keep in mind that you should be enjoying your diet. It shouldn't be something that's a huge stress and tough to stick to. So that brings us to the end.